All right, everybody, welcome to our Amplified Solutions webinar. We're going to be talking today about recruiting and lots of different things about recruiting, but something very specific we're going to cover today is managing your recruiting in your CRM, specifically Follow Up Boss, but relevant to any platform, just managing these contacts. We're going to go through some strategies for who to follow up with and how to follow up with them. We're going to share our recruiting guide, which is a pretty in-depth guide with some more ideas of where to find people to contact and ways to reach out, as well as some onboarding checklists and such. My name is Lee Adkins. I'm the Chief Partnership Officer at Amplified Solutions, and I'm joined today by Chris
Hi.
McDonough, the Chief
Hello.
Operating Officer of Amplified Solutions. How are you today?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Good. I'm very good. Excited to dig in. You and I have both done this personally on a few different levels and scenarios. But you have very deep experience doing this. I'm excited to learn from you a bit more today.
Yeah, it's fun. I worked with a team in South Carolina and we grew it from about 50 agents to about 225 at its height. So we made a lot of mistakes along the way and I learned a lot. And I also learned a lot working with the clients that we serve now. We coach clients all over the United States and we get to learn about their processes and what's working for them and advise them as well. So I gain a lot from that experience too.
Awesome. And I'm going to be dropping some links in the chat. We'll also send out these links with the recording of this video. These are always recorded. We'll send it out tomorrow morning, edited with all the resources. But I'll be dropping links as we go as well. So one thing I want to mention too, most of our webinars are purely educational. This one's going to be largely educational, but something that we're going to offer today is a really solid price on our setup for recruiting in Follow Boss. So if you just want the easy button, we're here to educate you. We're going to help you. But if you just want an easy button, we're going to provide that today. For $4.99, we can set up a recruiting system in your account. I'll drop that link in a second. Also, just drop the link to our YouTube channel that has hundreds of videos on all things operational, CRM, running your real estate business. So we'll do all that. But our recruiting setup, is basically you would get a strategy call to understand. We want to understand your needs. We can't just make it happen. We want to understand your company and your needs. You get a recruiting setup, which includes deal boards for high-level prospects, some smart lists, a recruiting pond. What's up, Toph? Hey, man, thanks for being on. Email and text template content for recruiting. I want to be clear, this is not an action plan. There's no magic action plan, but ways to follow up with these people. Our recruiting guide, which you'll all get, a training video specific to your setup. There's Lacey from Texas too. Hey, from Houston, people. As well as obviously the recording of this webinar, which everybody will get. So I'm going to drop a link to that. And Chris, why don't you take us through, I think we're starting with the recruiting theory. Oh, Mr.
Yeah,
Ferguson. All right. We got all the
I
time
know.
zones represented.
The gang's all here. I love it. Yes, as Lee said, we're going to walk you through for your do-it-yourselfers. Everything to do this is you can find it on our, it's Curtis. You can find it on our YouTube page, or we will be happy to set this up for you. So first, let's talk about recruiting in its theory, because if you don't understand why you're doing something and your intention that you need to set with this type of outreach, it's really difficult to set up this back-end system. So recruiting needs to be approached like nurturing any lead. It needs to be ongoing and not reactive. So you can't stop recruiting. If you're looking to build your team, you have to always be recruiting. You can't wait for a top producer to leave to start recruiting. Oh, Lee left. What are we going to do? The sales cycle, if you will, is so much longer for a recruit than a buyer or a seller. So if you haven't started recruiting and you want to grow your team, what's that saying you like, Lee, about the tree? You should have started yesterday or 20 years ago.
Yeah. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
Yes. So let's get started on recruiting today. As I said, I've helped a team that I was the broker in charge of. We grew it from about 50 agents to over 225. And we learned that for every 4 agents that we brought on, we had a very, very heavy recruiting system. So for every 4 agents that we brought on, we learned that 1 is going to leave early on and do nothing. The next one is going to do nothing for a long while, and then they are going to leave. 1 will eventually produce, but it's going to take them a lot longer than anybody thought for them to eventually produce. And then the 4th will go on to produce at a high level. So learning from this, that you're going to get 1, on average, 1 higher producing agent for every 4 you bring on, you need to use the mentality of, I need to bring on at least twice as many people than I think in order to gain high producing agents. Okay. So,
and Chris, we didn't plan this, but I'm gonna hop in with this because I've always said the same thing, and I know it's terrifying to people. You should always try to bring on at least 2 at the same time. Just that 50% attrition, or I love your stats where you build out with the 4. It's very common. It's easier to onboard people together. They can be a little accountable to each other. They kind of compete a little bit. And unfortunately, likely it's possible only one of them makes it. And you certainly don't want to go through all this, all the onboarding, all the training, and then be back at net 0. So I know it might sound scary to say, hey, you need to do 2 or 4 at the same time, but highly recommend.
Batch it out if you can. So learning from this lesson, if you're looking to grow your team, you can't leave this on the back burner. You have to make it a priority. And simultaneously, you need to be cultivating and training your pool of agents so that the existing agents that you have can grow to replicate the production should one of your top producers leave. So think about a nursery of plants. A plant store doesn't just have adult plants sitting around their plant store, because as soon as you sell that adult plant or it leaves for some reason, you're out of plants. So they have, in the back room, they have seeds they just planted, little seedlings, teenager plants. That's how you need to look at your current pool of agents. Or like, if you prefer a sports reference, you need to be building your bench. Make sure your B team is okay to step in and replace your A team. Thank you, Nat. I like plants and sports. All right. So Follow Up Boss is the perfect tool, or your other CRM that may not be as superior as Follow Up Boss, is the perfect tool to keep things organized and really maximize your recruiting efforts. So there's various ways to set this up within your Follow Up Boss. First, and this would be something we would suggest for larger organizations. If you're a larger organization and you have a dedicated recruiter, it's their full-time job, full systems built out, you can have a separate Follow Up Boss account with separate stages. That separate stages piece is the best reason to have a separate account. Again, we're going to teach you today how to build this in your existing Follow Up Boss account. But if you need separate recruiting stages, that's the one and only, as far as I can think of, drawback as to building it out in your current Follow Up Boss account, is those stages remain static for both your sales leads and your recruiting leads. Wrong day to be tongue-tied. So what we do for your pond that we're going to create for your recruiting stages, your recruiting leads, we're going to build a pond for your recruiting leads to live. The only people working in this pond would be those who are actively recruiting. You don't want your agents in there because someone might accidentally try to sell them a house or try to list their house, which would be a little bit embarrassing. And they also don't need to see, oh, Chris is trying to recruit Bridget from XYZ brokerage. That type of thing, they don't really need to be. We want to keep them focused on what they're doing best, and that's serving our clients. So we're going to create a separate pond that's only visible to those working on recruiting. And within that, we can have our own custom fields, and we can use the stages that exist for the sales leads and just assign kind of like your cheat sheet for your stages, which I hope you have, that says, in this stage, we reach out to this person this many times. In this stage, we reach out to them this frequently. This is what it means. This is the definition of the stage. we're going to have the same names. We'll just have different definitions for those recruiting leads. That way we can operate within the same system. Of course, we'll have different smart lists. We'll have different tags. We can change the visibility on those, but that stages piece is something that we can't.
Yeah, and
So,
Chris, I want to hop in with this real quick because I think a lot of people do overthink recruiting. Like we teach all of this cultivating these online leads and managing these relationships, and it could not be any more similar to what we do with online leads. You got to nurture some are going to be longer term, some may want to talk right now, and you've got to filter out the difference and understand those. And Kurt just has a question that I'll tackle. In theory, if you are a large organization or if you may have multiple people and you really want it custom stages, custom content in that one account, we would recommend a separate account. Using a separate user is certainly an option if that works better for you. It kind of depends, right? A lot of big teams we work with, an owner is out of production or ops person doing things are out of production. So maybe all the leads assigned to them are the recruiting leads. So again, it's not a one size fits all. That's part of why we do the strategy call for our setup is we got to understand what you're trying to do. So yeah, up to a separate account. If you're going to recruit full time and you're bringing on people, you may hire a recruiter one day. So you've got all that history, just like any CRM. But it could just simply be a separate seat. Or again, if you're out of production and the only leads assigned to you are the recruiting leads, then it could just be a user in your account.
Mm-hmm. And it's easy to toggle back and forth between the ponds. So if your admin staff or your management staff are the only people who work on recruiting, then those would be the only people with access. So they would only see the recruiting smart lists and the recruiting ponds. So there's a variety of ways to set it up. We're going to talk about how to build it within your existing account, but you can certainly have a separate account for it. So we're going to nurture our people, drip on them, reach out to them, send them information about our team or brokerage within the pond. And then once we get someone who is ready to meet with us, it's best to create deals for them. So we also like to create a separate deal stage board for your recruiting. So where you might have buyers and sellers, having a third or however many you have, another deal stage board that's just for recruiting. And again, here you can hide this visibility from those that don't need to see it. So on this recruiting deal board, this is for the people at the bottom of your funnel. So when you get to the point where you're setting appointments, you put them on your deal stage board and you move them through appointment set, appointment met, commitment, all sorts of things to your onboarding. And that way you can not only see where they are in the process, but for those of us, I always like to say that those of us who are in management or higher positions within real estate organizations, we're just grown-up agents. So we still have these agent brains. We need this visual to illustrate how many people we have in our pipeline. So yes, smart lists will be used with your recruiting setup, but having this deal board where you can slide someone from phase to phase and know exactly why you're reaching out to them, what you need to say is really helpful. And it also is a great visual. You can do reporting from your deal boards. And you can also just get a really good handle on this is what I have going on, because you can't just chase transactions. The biggest way to grow your business is to grow it with people. So having those deal boards is really stellar way to keep you accountable to what you need to do. And then within your follow-up boss, to set up some type of action plans and drip campaigns with your emails and templates. So we have a wide variety of email templates and text templates to give you with your recruiting setup. And the important thing to remember here is, and might be an unpopular opinion, but to Lee's point earlier, there is no magic action plan. These people want to be courted. They don't want to be put on a drip campaign. So it's one thing to send out general information about your team or brokerage. It is quite another to put them on an impersonal action plan that they've been around long enough. If you're looking to bring them to your team, they're savvy enough to know that you've put them on a drip campaign. So we like to provide you and arm you, if you will, with these great email and text templates that give you great language to use that you can kind of piece together depending on the situation, depending on the characteristics that you like about the person, and we can help you personalize those to your brokerage. So Lee, do you want to tell them about the guide that we're going to share with the recording tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll share this out and I'll drop the link to it now as well, but we'll send it with the recording. We have a recruiting guide that has a number of resources in it. It's got, let me take a quick look at the table of contents and we'll scroll through real quick. But again, I'll drop a link to this in the chat here in just a quick second. It's some ideas, like some things like, who are we looking for here? You know, you can't recruit them all. It's kind of like everything else. You can have segments. You should be focused on, hey, I really am looking for somebody in this production range, or hey, I really want new agents so they don't have bad habits. Some of the events you can do to identify people, simply inviting them to an existing session at your office, creating a mastermind group to do this. This was one of my most successful things in recruiting. Say, hey, let's get this group together. You know, again, it's a longer strategy, but these may be higher value people that do need, like Chris said, a little more hand-holding, a little more resources, a little more showing them you know what you're doing. Some sources of agent lists, whether you're buying them. Co-op agents are a great source of transactions. Some overall tips. Some of the CRM setup stuff. Obviously, we go deeper than this in our setup, but we wanted to, like I said, we want to always provide value. We can help you do this, but we also want this to be valuable for you and you can put it into action right now. List of questions you want to ask during those recruiting sessions. And there's no shame in writing these down. I'm a fan of taking these questions written, typed, and writing down their answers. It shows good engagement. You're going to remember what they said 2 days later. A really great thing. It's always good to be really clear on what you're offering, what you pay for versus what they need to pay for. Some ideas for nurturing agents, as well as a sample onboarding checklist. This isn't the perfect checklist. It's our template. But if you're going to recruit these people, you better be ready for them to have a good experience joining when they say yes. So we want to be a little proactive on that as well. So I'll drop that link now. And Chris, I'll let you keep rocking on.
Yeah, we're going to send that out to you tomorrow with the other goodies that we talk about here today. So where do we find agents to put into our follow-up boss? We have options of recruiting activities and events. You can host a career night at your office and invite them to talk about building a career at a real estate entity. I almost said existence, a real estate entity, what that looks like, what it takes to get licensed, that type of thing. You can invite them to an office open house. Get them in your office. The more they feel like they already work with you and know what it's like, the better chances they have at joining your team or brokerage. You can even invite them to your sales meetings. An established agent might feel a little weird showing up to a sales meeting, but if you feel confident that you are providing them with coaching and training that you're not going to be able to get somewhere else locally, it's a great opportunity to get them in, meet your other people, see what those feel like, and kind of grease those skids to them applying for you. And you can also attend career fairs. Career fairs happen all over town. Set up a booth there, meet people, talk to them about what it takes to get into real estate. Lee, can you think of any others?
Yeah, well, I want to mention that. That's actually how I got in the business. I answered a monster.com ad about, I guess that shows my age, about, hey, be a real estate agent. I was like, cool, that always sounds great. Didn't know anything about getting my license or whatever. Walked into an office and that was the brokerage I joined because that was my first contact and they helped me figure out how to get my license and do all the things. So, and our association here in Atlanta actually provides a career night where you can have, and it's very inexpensive. I know obviously y'all aren't all in Atlanta, but check for things like this because they offer that for the evening license classes. So the licensees, before they've chosen a brokerage, get a chance to walk around and meet people in the career night. So just keep your ear to the ground. There's always great opportunities. And I mentioned before co-op, when I ran our team, we had a checklist in our contract cover sheet that said, would this agent be a good fit for our team? And it was required. So if they said yes, I picked up the phone and I was like, hey, Dana said you were awesome to work with. Feel it out. I'm not necessarily inviting them to join the team at that moment, but it's a nice touch. People will get impressed. Their own broker doesn't congratulate them when they have a good transaction. So, that's how you win.
Yeah, you've got to outfriend them, outfriend your competition. You can also use technology like a broker kit, which allows you to take the agent rosters from your MLS and export them, and then you can import them to your Follow Up Boss account to prospect and nurture them. So there is technology you
Chris,
can
I'm
use.
sorry, I did have one more that is in the guide that I neglected to add here.
Yeah.
I used to just also scrape our super list. So all the showings on our listings were people that were more of a nurture drip, because in theory they have buyers, they're out there working, they're doing stuff. That can be another great source. More of the drip nurture long-term people potentially.
Yeah.
But another great source of a narrowing that audience from 60,000 agents to a couple hundred.
Yeah, because you want to find the agents who are working. I have a license, but I got out of production 8 years ago, so it's important to use a strategy with it. So the Supras, that type of thing is definitely good. Another great source is your own website. If you add information about your culture, frequently asked questions about real estate in general, you can film day in the life videos about agents that work on your team, how you get paid, what sets your organization apart from other organizations. This helps you to pre-screen applicants. The more information you can have on your website for them to explore and read on their own is going to help weed out the people who don't know what it takes to be in real estate and be successful, don't know what it takes to even get a license. If you can educate them and pre-screen them with that information, that's work you have to do one time when you put it on the website. So anytime you post any job postings or anything like that, link to that helpful information that you're going to put on your website, and that will help weed out people. Nat says their career page has been the second most important part of converting agent recruits. Excellent. Maybe you can put your website on here and we can check it out.
Yeah, I'm dropping 2 examples. If you want to drop yours, Nat, that'd be awesome.
We can use you as inspiration. So another great source is your advertising. Now, I'm not talking about advertising of we're hiring 5 agents. I'm talking about your general ad. And of course, you can advertise that you're hiring 5 agents, but I'm talking about your general advertising. So if your advertising is just picture after picture of your face and you're trying to grow a team, you could lead your potential pool of applicants to believe that working for you is going to be all about you, So share the wins of your existing agents. Celebrate your own agents publicly, because that does 2 things. It makes agents at other brokerages recognize that maybe my broker or team lead isn't celebrating me like this other person is doing. And it's also a fantastic way to build confidence and connection to your existing agents. That retention piece is so important. So culture or leadership awards, your agent of the month, fantastic reviews from clients. And this will also help you get client leads. Production awards, all of those are really great ways to celebrate their hard work and get their faces, get their names out in the public, because what that tells them through your advertising is that you are investing in your people. You genuinely want them to grow. You're not intimidated or threatened by their success, because that's the type of environment that people like to go to. So you can also share specifics on what your agents have accomplished. So Lee Adkins sold 120 homes over the last 3 years. That's an amazing statistic. That's going to give you to a mid-level agent. That's going to allow them to think, wow, I could probably do more there than I'm doing here. If he can do that, I can do it.
And that's your credit, because that feeds your marketing. You should be posting that on Instagram and Facebook anyway, tagging the agent. People they're friends with are going to see them. That's where it's at.
I'm going to move. The sun's coming through my blinds, and I have a weird light. The clouds parted for our webinar. So this it for you marketing nerds, this is called social proof. You want to do it for your clients, you want to do it for other agents, because that social proof to our human brains is something that says, oh, other people have done this before. They're getting the type of results that I desire to have. That means I am more likely to have it. That's why you post reviews on your website. It's social proof. You can also share the support and resources that you provide to your agents. Know what's important to the agents who have a long tenure with you. Poll them. Hey, why is it that you stay here? What keeps you here? What do you enjoy working about here? And highlight those things. Is it the leads? Is it the training? Is it the technology? Is it because I never call you and bother you? What is it that keeps you around? And then celebrate those things, because if those are the types of people that you enjoy working with, it will naturally attract like for like. You can also let your agents tell their story. That's another big key in social proof. Film an interview with them, podcast style, like Lee and I are doing now. We're recording this. Share why they chose to come to your team or brokerage and why they're still there. Because if you're telling them, that's one thing. But if one of your agents is saying it, that's bold exclamation point social proof. You can
And Chris,
also,
we should have
go ahead.
probably should have said this up top, but and this probably is a whole other webinar, and I know we've got some notes on it later, but I want to also mention the retention versus recruiting as well. You
Yes.
got to walk a fine balance here of, we don't want to just chase the new people and be excited about the new people. So to your point, propping up our existing people, showing the people we want to get more people like more, is really going to, it's kind of the circle of life type of thing. It's going to feed all the things. Everybody looks good. Everybody feels good. But important to note that retention is not to be ignored in all of this. So I love the points you just made, Chris. They're really, empowering your existing agents and learning from them. Why are you still here? What is good? Like, what is it about this environment that attracted you and continues to attract you? That's really important.
Yeah, and they might even give you some feedback. No one wants it to have a negative turn, but they might even give you some feedback on, you know what, the one thing that I don't like is this. And then you can fix it, because you've created that space for them to provide you with that good and bad feedback. So you can also post or go live on your social media just to tell interesting stories about your day-to-day. Give behind the scenes information about your events, about your showings, about what it's like to work in your office. This also shows them on a very accessible way through your social media what it's like to work there, because that's how some people get into real estate. They go through a transaction, or they watch you on HGTV or whatever, and they think, oh, the more they're exposed to that idea, the more they think, well, I might like to do that. Another great source of agents are your current agents. Do they know of anyone who would be interested in joining? Have they worked with someone recently that did a great job, like Lee mentioned earlier? You can even set up an incentive for them. So if you bring someone on, you get this amount out of their first however many transactions. This does a couple things. It encourages them to assist you in recruiting in a natural way, because they're incentivized, but they're also investing in the new agent's success, because if that new person doesn't sell any houses, they don't make any money. So you get a twofer, you get a new recruit, and you get someone to help them train. You can also add a link to join your brokerage at the bottom of your email signature. And this goes out to anyone that doesn't work at your company. So for you Gmail users, it's called a global signature. We can show you where it is in the account settings, but you can add information about recruiting there. So kind of like when you're emailing internally, you don't see it, but if you send it outside of the company, you do see it. So that way it's not really intruding and in the face of your current agents. And making these types of links easily accessible, so adding them to your social media, putting them on your outgoing communication. You never know who's going to see it. Someone at a different brokerage might see it. Someone who's a client who might be seeing it, or knows someone, it's a client's son or daughter, might be interested in getting into real estate. Just having it out in the community is so important, because they're so much more likely to be clicked.
Chris, that's really the one thing that I think not enough people do. And people that I work with directly and people that I coach with, like, people, it's not super widely known. And we all know we can't send a single email and have our agents go, oh, got it. Okay. I'll be at that training. I'm going to go to the intranet and watch all the videos. And then I'm going to watch this webinar and I'm going to write you a book report about how great it was and everything I learned. That's never going to happen. You have to do it consistently. Having it in your signature is great. Running a Facebook ad is great. Posting wins with your agents. To our earlier point in the webinar, those things have to be done consistently to be successful, and they have to be done proactively to the always be recruiting thing, not, oh crap, I just lost an agent, I need to get another one. It's going to take 60 days minimum to ramp them up anyway and get them going. So that proactive and just being vocal that you're looking for more people to join your team is, I really see a lot of people that don't do that. And I wish more people would just be more overt that they're always looking for good people.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it I like to talk about our human brain like I'm a scientist or something. But if you're looking to buy sunglasses on Instagram, statistically, I need to see the same ad on Instagram for sunglasses 7+ times before I'm like, you know what? It's a sign from the universe. I need these sunglasses. So I'm talking like a $20 to $50 purchase to quit your job and get licensed and do all of the things. How many times do you need to see that sign from the universe, whether it be advertising or social media or something in your email? So think about it like that. You need to give your intended audience the feeling that they're seeing you everywhere. Like, oh, I saw your billboard and I heard you on the radio, and then you sent me an email and I was like, I can't ignore this. That make it so they can't ignore you. Another great source for agents are new agents. Lee hit on this earlier. We've all heard the statistic that most buyers use the realtor that they meet with first. The new agents are most likely to join the brokerage of the broker or team lead that they meet first. So if you have a solid training program for newly licensed agents, partner with that local real estate school. Get in there and bring them lunch and cookies and donuts. Sponsor events at your local MLS. Or if you're really ambitious, you can create your own real estate school, and then you have your captive audience of newly licensed agents.
We have a big brokerage here that does that, and it absolutely destroys. It's like, hey, we'll cover your scholarship for your license in your first closing or whatever. It's the best. It's one of the best things ever that they do. And something I'd love to mention, this is a real pro tip. I probably shouldn't even share this. So we had really success with somebody. We were able to get the school pass-fail list. We had really good success with the fail list, because just because they didn't pass the test once, no one's following up with them. If you're the one that's like, hey, our verbiage for that was, congrats on completing your real estate course, not, hey, you failed your test. Congrats on completing your course. And then 9 times out of 10 they'll be like, oh, that test was really hard. And if appropriate and relevant in your market, you could even say, like, I don't know if you have the bandwidth to possibly help them with that, but you want to get an agent for life, that would be find the people that people aren't looking. Mike, that's a great question. Best practice for starting a school. It varies tremendously by market, and it is state by state. But yeah, contact your real estate board, the real estate commission. If you own your own brokerage, it's pretty easy. I know in Georgia, you can submit an application to start a school. There's a little bit of accreditation involved. You have to get it still the CE approved if you're going to do CE, but it's not that difficult, but it does vary a good bit from state to state. So check your real estate commission.
Yeah.
Mike, that's a great, we'll go deeper on that for a future webinar. I love talking about JVs and MSAs and other ways to make money and build your business.
Yeah. Sorry, we jam-packed a lot in this. So another great source of finding agents are your past clients. And I hit on this a little bit earlier, but these are a huge untapped resource for recruiting. Many like the process so much that they become interested in real estate. They start watching HGTV. They want to get their license and pursue a real estate career. So these people, if they had a good experience with you, they're more likely to either want to join themselves or recommend someone that they know that wants to get involved with real estate. So add recruiting information to your email, global email signature, like I said, because that's going to your clients and planting those repetitive seeds, but also add recruiting information to your monthly newsletter and your other past client outreach. Those leads can be captured and you might be really surprised on how many inquiries you get.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And you have the stats on those too. So depending on your system, you'll actually see who clicks on the join our team button.
Absolutely.
And that should be evergreen content for your newsletter anyway. In fact, I know at least 2 of the pages I dropped, and I would bet Nat does this, do that. It's in their newsletter, drives them right to that page. It works.
Absolutely. Utilize your vendor partners to find new agents. These people know what it's like to work with you at a very high level, even if they aren't licensed real estate agents. They know what resources you have. They've been to your meetings. They know your culture. They've been to your events. And maybe more importantly than this, they also know your competition's culture. So when someone goes to them and says, hey, I'm thinking about getting into real estate, which brokerage or which team do you think I should join? They're uniquely positioned to give great referrals if you can outshine the competition. So make sure you're involving them because they are a fantastic resource for referrals, and ask them regularly. Like Lee said, don't just wait for them to refer someone. Ask them overtly on a regular basis. Hey, do you know someone? Could you suggest us to anyone? And another way is to be open-minded and really understand which industries translate well into real estate sales. So I always have an affinity for food and beverage experience on a resume. If you can thrive and enjoy working in food and beverage, you statistically are going to make a really fantastic, you have to wear so many hats. You're available to work weird hours. Food and beverage sales does really well. Door-to-door sales, copier sales, large appliance sales, refrigerators, washers, dryers, cars, cell phone, software sales even. These are all great industries where they get that experience, even though it's not real estate related. So those type of industries translate well. They have really great customer service skills, relationship-centric work habits, and they make great agents.
Yeah, also obviously anything service like waiting tables or things like that. I know of and have personally had a few people that came from giving a card at a good experience at a meal, especially a higher end restaurant. I know we have a client that has somebody that has that, like a higher end, like wine person.
Yeah.
And they know how to operate around those people. They probably have a network of a lot of those people. So any sort of service, yeah, you mentioned food and beverage, but just even specifically service
Yeah.
is another great vertical.
But the keys to be looking for that, often when you're at a restaurant, you're like, oh, thank goodness I can take a break.
To work.
But tune your brain to look for that talent. If someone's going above and beyond, they're really anticipating your needs. Hey, have you ever thought about working in real estate? Give them your card. But that might be the confidence booster they need to level up and start doing something different. So one of your best recruiting strategies needs to be your retention strategy. And Lee hit on this a little bit earlier, but the title of this webinar should have been Everything All at Once, because that's what you have to do, is everything all at once. You have to be looking for new agents, but you have to be nurturing your current agents, because if you have that even mix of nurturing your existing agents and looking for new ones, you know that it's easier to keep an agent than to find, recruit, and train up a new one. All right. It could take you a year longer to find someone and get someone fully trained at a high producing level if they're newer, or if they didn't have support or accountability where they previously worked. They've got bad habits to break. That's going to take you longer to get them producing than to cultivate and nurture someone else. And to Lee's point earlier, if you spend too much time on your new agents, your top producers are going to feel like you don't value them anymore. And conversely, if you spend all your time with your top producers, your newer agents aren't going to feel supported, and they're going to go find someone else who does make the time to devote to them. So it's a real dance, and you have to make sure you're making time for everybody regularly. So meet with your people once a month, help them plan and accomplish their goals. The biggest takeaway here is what you said when you recruited them, the promises that you made. Make sure you're following through on those promises. Celebrate their wins as often as you can and give them a place to grow. Everybody loves growth, especially real estate agents. Teach them how to build a team within your team, their own little micro team. Structure your organization for some opportunities for leadership. Can they chair a committee, head up a panel, mentor other agents, or manage a department or an office as you grow? If there's nowhere to grow within your organization, then at some point, they're going to outgrow your organization and go somewhere else. So nurturing them, giving them somewhere to go, fulfilling those promises are really important. So when we use Follow Up Boss to organize our recruiting contacts, we hit on this a little bit earlier, but let's dive in a little bit deeper. We're going to set up that recruiting pond and separate those out from our sales leads. We don't have any accidents, nobody accidentally sending anything, nobody viewing things that they're not supposed to. That's keeping those things partitioned off. Then with your recruiting emails, these agents are savvy and they know if I had a nickel for every time that I received a text message that said, "Hey, Crystal, Chris, McDonough," like that's obviously an import, a custom field tag, whatever you're using, a merge field. That's the word I'm looking for. That's obviously a merge field you're using to mass text people. That really, really is such a turnoff. And also, I was the broker in charge of the the number 10 team in the nation at the time. I was not interested in going anywhere else. You have to research the people that you're reaching out to. They want you to court them. They want you to feel like, oh, they're interested. She's talking to me. He's looking to me. So not every email you send needs to end in, "Do you want to meet up or have a quick call?" Send them a compliment. Thank them for a job well done. Admire what they're doing on social media and encourage them. Their broker might not have, some people that came to work for me, they never even met their broker and they'd been at their brokerage for years. So develop their trust in you and some semblance of a relationship, and then go in for the appointment. So
I want to double down on that real quick, just
Yeah.
because it's so important. Because I did the same thing. I've been out of production for 11 years now too, and the same thing. When you get the email that's like, "Oh, your production looks great. I'd love to talk to you," I'm like, it says 0. Like, did you at least just look at the MLS or Market View Broker or Broker Metrics? Like, don't send me a canned email that says, "Wow, based on your history as an agent, we'd love to talk with you." I'm like, it looks like I've never sold a house in my life, or at least in the last 10 years. Like, come on, let's not do that. And one tip specific to Follow Up Boss, and this, if you can, so much better to send these as one-off emails, which is also why we recommend templates, because it doesn't add the unsubscribe link. It feels like a personal email. If it's a batch email, it's got the unsubscribe. They hit unsubscribe. Now they're out. Doesn't mean you can't call them or email them one-off, but like, take the time to do a little research. Send the one-off email, even if it's a template. It's just going to pay dividends over trying to, spray and pray or whatever it is they call it.
Exactly.
I'm going to hit 10,000 people and say, "Do you want to have coffee?" That's not how we do it.
Like me accidentally saying I worked for the number 1 brokerage in the nation. It was the number 1 team in the state. That's where I got the number 1 from. Number 10 in the nation in its time. So sending that mix of soft recruiting emails where it's, "I like what you're doing," those flattering, engaging emails, they're going to be surprised by that. Everyone else is sending them, "Hey, do you want to meet? Hey, do you want to grab a coffee or lunch? Hey, do you want to?" I'm going to just drop by to say congratulations. I'm going to just drop by to thank you for a job well done. That is something that they're going to remember long after that email ends. They're going to remember the way they felt when they got that with no strings attached. Jason Pantana always says this is a know you, like you, trust you business. And that goes for attracting agents as well. They're not going to quit the devil they know to come work for you on that first email. So keep in mind that those email and text templates are going to be for you to nurture them and create a relationship.
And Chris, I think we have this a little bit later on our agenda, but I know we're also trying to be mindful of time. So I'm going to mention it now and drop a link. Sending those items of value, sending your, hey, we're doing our business planning. I want to show you a copy of our business planning with your brand on it and all your info on it. You're helping them. You're coming from contribution. You're giving them content. Hey, here's our agent goal guide. Here's our, and you can steal all this from us. I literally just dropped a link right now. It's all free. You don't even have to join our email list. It's all right there. These are designed for you to put your logo on them and use them. So, hey, here's our goal sheet. Hey, here's our agent marketing plan. I thought you might find this useful. Again, you're going to differentiate yourself from all the other idiots that are like, hey, you look like a great agent. When can we get coffee? It's just a much better way to be and to lead with value.
Absolutely. And we're getting to the end here, but just having a strategy for your recruiting session or your meeting or your interview, however it's structured. Have a list of suggested questions. We have this in our guide for you. Know your strategy going in. The person giving the interview or holding the meeting needs to be super knowledgeable and confident in all of the business practices and processes that the team or brokerage has. Someone isn't going to quit their job and go work for 100% commission if your interviewer is disorganized or doesn't know what they're talking about. So have a recruiting presentation, prepared questions, and a plan to supply your applicant with all the information so that they'll feel confident in making a switch. Even give them stuff to take home or questions to ask another brokerage if they're shopping around. And don't get too salesy during the interview. Walk them through the current market, give them a very accurate view as to the amount of work that it takes in order to be successful in real estate, especially people who have never worked in real estate before. This is something that I'm so passionate about. A lot of people look at someone who's in year 5 or year 10 and think it's like that out of the gate. There's tons of phone calls and prospecting, long afternoons after hours and of showings, and you scrap your weekends for open houses and client meetings, and you can't miss soccer games. And like, you can't sit someone down and paint this beautiful picture for them, and then they quit their job with steady pay and benefits, and it's nothing but. That's not how you serve your community. So please paint them an accurate picture. Some of my managers used to try and scare people out of joining real estate because it feels bad when they come to you and they're like, I'm out of money.
Right.
And you're like, I teed you up to run out of money, and now your family can't eat because of what I sold you. So
Chris, it's funny. We've never actually talked about this. I just realized, but I'm all about that too. What I always tell people is the ad, super sexy, right? Real estate, it's awesome. Come learn about it. Come join us. Come to career night. Come do whatever. But as you go through that process, continuing to be very realistic, setting that expectation. I think all too many people are like, we got the best leads. We have the best training. It's going to be amazing. You're just going to crush it day one. And that's not a fair expectation to set, because they're not. I went in full time and ended my first closing for 6 months, and I had a mentor. I was knocking on FSBOs. I mean, I did it all. So I love the way you said that, Chris. Towards the bottom of the funnel, make sure we're still not just like, oh, it's amazing, just sign here and you're going to get a check in a week, because that's not how it works.
That's definitely not how it works. And if that's how it works on your team, call us and tell us what you're doing.
I'm in.
And the last of our recruiting strategies that we want you to really work on, and we could do a whole webinar on this, is to have a solid onboarding process. Make a checklist, and we have a basic one for you to work off of in the guide that we're sending you. Make a checklist of everything you need to do when an agent comes on board, because early mistakes, miscommunications, forgotten items, it leads to distrust in your leadership and your organization. Because if something happens later on, if you screw up their first commission check and the relationship sours for whatever reason, they're going to go, oh, I knew it from the start. Nobody wants to quit their full-time job with benefits and show up to you going, hey, welcome. I guess you can shadow Lee today. And here's some paper. Maybe you want to read this. And here's some videos to watch, and we'll check in with you in a little bit. That's a terrible feeling. That's a terrible feeling.
Or
Make
when
a
they're not on the
plan.
website 2 weeks after they've joined, or they don't have a
Yes.
Stars link or a Follow Boss account.
Make a plan, get it on paper, and then add to it over time to make it more robust as you bring on more agents and get
Chris,
their
I want to
feedback
mention real
about their
quick.
process.
We do the last page of our recruiting guide is the checklist, but I just dropped a link because we have a Google Doc version that I just dropped a link to the page it's on. And there's actually a long version and a short version. So you can just make a copy in Google Drive and edit it yourself. So you can add in make sure they get a key to the office, or make sure they get a t-shirt on the day or whatever. So I want to make sure people also realize they can grab that one and customize it and pop their logo on it. And hey, you're ready to rock.
Perfect.
Man, all the cool kids are on today. Thank you guys for being on.
I appreciate it. So to review, have a business worth people coming to. Make sure you're ready for them, know your splits, know your offering, have your team agreement ready to be signed. You don't want them to go, oh yes, I'd love to join. And then you have to get your ducks in a row. So get in, be proactive, have an onboarding plan with an accompanying checklist. You can follow our recruiting guide, add those people to your follow-up boss, nurture them consistently, and be prepared for your interview. And then rinse and repeat until you reach the team. See, look how easy. Rinse and repeat until
Just like
you
that.
reach the team you desire. So we're going to send you the recruiting guide. We have a doc to send you. You'll get the recording. And if you're interested in us building this out and coaching you through your strategy call and helping you, we do have specific stage tags, outlines of action plans, whatever you need for your business, we have built out for you in your recruiting setup. So we're with those emails, can't forget the emails and texts. So check us out online for more information, and we are excited to help you set up your recruiting.
Awesome. Yeah. So we'll send that all out tomorrow, like Chris said. And Jamie, to answer your question, that is all in that guide that we shared, and we'll send it with the recording as well. But we do have some specific lists. So Chris, great job. I cannot believe that you fit all of that unbelievably fantastic info into 1 hour. That's unbelievable job.
Well, there's more there, but that's the Cliff's Notes.
Stay tuned for part 2.
As I can get it.
Awesome. And hopefully you guys will be at FubCon. If you are, certainly find us. We're not hard to find. Our whole leadership team will be there. We're the very, very tall people. But find us. We'd love to talk with you more there and say hello in real life.
Absolutely. See you soon. Thanks for being here.